Hello and welcome to another episode of Better Minneapolis. Today I'm here with Nancy Ford and Amy Johnson. We're going to talk a little bit about how this last election went and their experience in Ward 12, in particular around 46th and Hiawatha. So hello.
Thanks for inviting me.
So Nancy, you ran for city council twice, right? In 2021 and 2023?
Correct. 2021 as an independent candidate against Andrew Johnson, and 2023 I sought the DFL endorsement and was, in the pack along with Irene Chowdhury and Luther Ranheim.
Okay. And so you didn't run this last time around. What changed your mind? How come you didn't get in there?
There is nothing in it for me. It's if you don't have full support, from the party. If you don't have people backing you, it's all for naught. It's a whole bunch of wasted time and energy.
Yeah.
And it wears on you, especially when you're running alone with a very small crew. There's nobody there to, insulate you from name calling, hatred, and vitriol. You're taking it, face first the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was bad the first time when, I had people calling me names, throwing food in my face, attacking my business online, and coming into my store and doing the same thing. It's like, and then I foolishly decided to do it a second time because I guess I don't learn sometimes. And, at least, the second time around, I was pretty much ignored. So I was just left alone. I wasn't invited to, some of the different events where candidates were invited. And it's like, okay, fine.
So what motivated you to run? What you run the Repair Lair, you're a small business owner. Was that part of your reason for running, or what changes were you hoping you could bring to the forefront by running?
Well, I think that there's some fiscal responsibility that comes with owning a small business, where you have to make payroll. You have to make some pretty serious decisions about the direction you want your business to go in if the numbers aren't working. Mm-hmm. And I think the same thing happens with a city. It's like you have to, pay real close attention to, where the funds are coming from. You have to protect that nut. And then also make some pretty, serious decisions about how you want to spend that money. And essentially, I think the most important thing, in a large city is taking care of the infrastructure. Number one, and making sure that, water, electricity, roads, all that kind of stuff is functioning because people rely on it every day, in their lives and, to get to work. And it didn't seem like that was a priority. Mm-hmm. And we were kind of wandering off into the weeds. And, foolishly, naively, I thought, well, we need to see somebody other than career politicians coming to the table. Not realizing, well, yeah, that's exactly what we get, because they're there because, crony politics, favors are being, paid back. You spend years working on people's, campaigns, and you're eventually going to be rewarded with a seat of some sort and the support to get you there.
Well, I think one of the criticisms I've heard quite a bit is that kind of the lack of real-world experience that a lot of the current council people have, like they've never owned a business or a lot of times worked outside of the nonprofit sector. So, Amy, you're here today because you have some interesting, I think, experiences about where you live in your neighborhood. You're by the train, right, at 46th and Hiawatha?
Yep, that's correct. And for the last several years, I've been sharing what Minneapolis looks like from my front lawn.
So is it safe to say you think there's some public safety issues?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot.
So I find it really interesting. I've even written a newsletter about it after looking at it. You have a Instagram channel, I guess it is, called Karen the Camera, right? So
Yes.
people want to see that, Karen the Camera. And I forget how, I think there was an article in the paper about you or something. And so I looked up Karen the Camera, and, you know, I guess I was a little shocked. I mean, what I saw was actually worse than I had expected after reading the article. So how long has it been up? What kind of motivated you to put it up? And I'm also curious, have things gotten better or worse since you put the camera up?
All good questions. The cameras started so that people would believe us, so that people would take us seriously.
And by people?
Metro Transit, elected officials, the people we were reaching out to for help. If you describe a situation and you send an email, we weren't getting responses. If we could attach a picture to that email, we might get a response. If you post it on the internet, you definitely get a response. And so to get help, we had to put up cameras and document just how bad it was.
And so in particular, we're talking about, at 46, there's a station for the train, and then there's like a sidewalk that leads to the neighborhoods, is that right? And that's where most of the focus is?
Yep, so there's a little footpath that lets daily commuters from the neighborhood get to the train.
Mm-hmm.
And that footpath is the front of our house.
And so what sort of things are you seeing out there?
Everything. Nancy laughs a little because she sees it, she just doesn't have it on camera.
I see the same stuff at
Active,
the opposite end.
yeah, active drug use all hours of the day, and nothing's stopping it. And then every issue that goes with active drug use. So,
And when you say drug use, this isn't just like a couple of kids smoking pot,
no,
right?
no. One summer we counted and we picked up over 100 used, uncapped, discarded needles from our lawn. Another summer we counted how many times we had to clean up human feces, and that was in the 80s. I don't count anymore. We just take care of it, I guess.
And are people camping on the sidewalk, or?
If no one bothers them, yes. So you just never know like what you'll drive without the cameras, what you'll drive up to. Now I can check the front of my house at any time of day if I need to see what's going on. But there were times where we'd pull up and there'd just be a body on the ground.
Yeah.
And you have so many questions.
Dead
like,
or alive?
Dead or alive? How did it get there? Did somebody beat them up? You know, like what's going on? And so the cameras help to answer a lot of that.
Well, I'm going to fill in a few details I think you're being too kind to leave out. I mean, when I've looked in on the camera, there's like people actively having sex.
A whole lot of that. A lot of prostitution. They got to pay for the drugs.
Oh, okay. And then, yeah, I mean, people going to the bathroom, groups of people. Sometimes it's 3 or 4, sometimes it's 1, but just exhibiting really obviously bizarre sort of drug-induced behavior that, and I think I feel like we want those people to get treatment, but as someone who lives by them, you don't know what to expect, right? I mean, it's like you don't know if they're going to attack you, if they're in some kind of psychosis, if they're about to have a heart attack. Like, it puts a lot of onus, it seems to me, on you to try and interpret what's about to happen. Because
Yes.
you don't know.
You don't
right?
know.
Because they could be raging 1 minute and about to fall asleep the next, right?
That's true. Yeah, that pretty much describes. You
Yeah.
never know what the next second will bring.
I've been chased down because I looked at somebody, the wrong way. I was, I used to spend a lot of time around the intersection picking up trash.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like, I guess apparently somebody wasn't completely done with that can of dust off. They were passed out unconscious in the middle of the sidewalk. Can was 20 feet away from them. I picked it up, put it in my bag, started walking across the street. They were up in a flash, screaming at me to give it back to them, and I took off across Hiawatha and took it out of the bag and threw it back into traffic. I'm like, just stay away from me. And things like that have happened to me multiple times.
My husband was mowing the lawn and had a knife pulled on him for mowing the front yard.
Yeah. And so I think you've both maybe tried to raise awareness about what's happening over there. You've contacted Metro Transit, is that right? What has been their reaction?
Once it was documented and once we could prove it was happening, Metro Transit.
So the onus is on you to document.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They're not going to come out there and look at it on their own?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Once we could document it, once we could prove it's happening, that the individuals doing the drugs or defecating on our lawn or having sex or prostitution, whatever, was coming from the transit station, they would help a little bit. So they'd give us something little. One time when it got so bad, they trimmed up the trees and bushes on their property and kind of coming into our cul-de-sac to take away some of the privacy that people were finding to do their drugs.
And that's funny that you bring that up, because I think in one of the clips I watched, it seemed like one of the people was like clipping the flowers or like kind of just stealing stuff from around out of the flower beds. It was weird. I didn't know what they were doing.
So the flower beds are ours. We put those in to have something beautiful to look at. But we had pine trees trimmed up. We've had additional lighting put in, increased lighting. It's like stadium grade.
Metro
Oh yeah.
Transit. Okay.
Yeah. It's like daytime all day in front of our house, which is good. I'm not complaining. The lights help. We had fencing, 6-foot tall security fencing put up. We had to build a garage to secure our belongings because cars on the street got windows smashed. Anything left out in the yard got taken.
So that makes me think you had a robbery too, right? You have a warehouse, or you sue on Lake Street. Give me some details about that.
So, yes, my business used to be located at 33rd and East Lake Street, and I eventually just didn't want to take it anymore. The rent was too high, the property is owned by a nonprofit that wasn't really working with the tenants, and I was sick of feces in the parking lot, people sleeping back by the dumpsters. I couldn't weed the garden. I had to wear gloves when you weed the garden because you didn't know if you were going to find needles or not. People wandering in off the street. I had a lot more like casual street traffic, I suppose, when I was on Lake Street. And so, people just wandering into the store, taking whatever they wanted and saying, I want this, so I'm just going to take it, kind of thing. And a couple blocks away from there, I had a warehouse for, extra inventory. And, Labor Day, I was out running errands and I was going to do some work, and I headed over to the warehouse space and I opened up the door and I'm like, this looks messier than usual, maybe? I don't know. And then I looked on the shelf and the Ring camera was gone, and I pulled out my phone, but it was still online. Well, where the heck is it? And then I started scrolling back through the footage, and 2 guys had spent over 3 hours in there a few hours earlier, and just took a lot of stuff. And it became real clear as I'm looking through it. There's a lot of stuff missing here. I'm going to have to start inventorying what the heck's gone. And I called the police and I reported it, and a couple days later, a lot of the inventory. One of the things that was stolen was a very large hunting tent that retails for $2,500. And when I initially saw the first tent go up at Sabri's camp at 28th and Lake, I was driving by it on a regular basis and documenting what I was seeing. And lo and behold, front and center was this $2,500 tent. And I had photos, and I was able to, recover it. The police helped me recover it. And lots of other stuff was never recovered. But since I had the ring camera footage, I posted photos of the two individuals who were in the space. And yeah, I was pretty angry and upset about it because I'm kind of fed up with the theft and all the other problems I've had to deal with as a business owner, including but not limited to people using my bathroom as a safe injection site. And yeah, I posted stuff on social media, and yeah, I did use my store accounts, and yeah, I probably did use language that wasn't the best, and I was vilified for it. I was the one who was attacked, and you know, it just wears on you after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I think what is frustrating is that to get any sort of attention to these crimes, that you as the small business owner, you as the homeowner, have to post things online. You have to try and promote it. You have to, really make a fuss to show that you're frustrated or angry or it feels like nothing gets done. And even then, maybe nothing gets done.
Well, I saw the pictures of the individuals.
yeah,
Okay.
And day later, they rode past my house, and I texted Nancy and I said, your guys just went by with the trailer full of your stuff.
And I sat at 45th and Hiawatha for, heck, I don't know how many hours, waiting for the police to show up. It was the same day that there was a fatal shooting at the Midtown, transit stop. Mm-hmm. So they were busy with that. But during the hours that we were sitting there waiting for, police to show up to arrest the guy, recover some of my belongings, I was watching an attempted automobile theft in progress. I watched a couple of people walk up to a truck with screwdrivers and, coat hangers and stuff. I'm like, okay, let's call 911 about that. Within 10 minutes, a couple of county sheriffs showed up.
Oh, that's good.
And, so they were dealing with that, and I ran up to him and said, hey, once you're done with that, can you hook me up here? And he goes, well, what are you here for? And I'm like, that guy right there and all those duffel bags of stuff, I've already reported it. Can you help us out? So they made a couple phone calls, and they wound up arresting him, and yeah, I got some of my stuff back.
Okay.
But it's,
That's exhausting.
it is exhausting dealing with this kind of stuff. And then having to put together an inventory list, then having to show up in court, and then, your headspace changes. You're always wondering, did I remember to lock something? Are all the windows rolled up? And of course, the one time you forget to lock the car, something winds up missing out of it. That's because somebody is checking those locks every day.
Yeah, no, that happens in my house too. So, obviously, public safety was a big issue in this last election. Do you feel like anything's going to change now?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not, and honestly, I don't have the bandwidth for it anymore, so I've just kind of checked out. And, somebody stopped into my shop the other day and they said, hey, yeah, I was just at, a safety meeting for 46 in Hiawatha. I was surprised that you weren't there. And I said, don't be, because even though I sent emails specifically requesting, or I used to send emails specifically requesting, please include me in some of these conversations, I am deliberately left out of those conversations and not invited.
And who's running those conversations? Why do you think that's happening?
I would imagine it's Irene Chowdhury.
Okay.
And I wouldn't, it's obvious that I've already gotten under her skin a couple times, because I did the last community safety meeting that I went to. She came up to me after the meeting and just laid into me in public after the meeting. It was incredibly inappropriate and unprofessional. I'm like, okay, well, as far as I'm concerned, you're not a worthy opponent. I don't have time for you. I'm not going to waste my oxygen on you anymore.
Mm-hmm. So have you, Amy, had a chance to kind of talk to your neighbors about the public safety issues that you're seeing? Are there others out there, or is it just you and Nancy?
Oh, there's lots of others out there. And I get a lot of support and appreciation from the neighbors that can recognize the issues and can recognize that awareness needs to be brought to them, because we can't fix a thing until we're aware of what's broken. There's always a couple people who dislike the videos I make. They're emotional, right? They cover subject matter that most people would rather pretend isn't happening. And if anything, they should be mad at the song choices I put with the videos, but the videos themselves are a pretty accurate reflection of our community.
And do you know if anyone at Metro Transit or MPD or watches them at all?
I've gotten feedback, yeah. Metro Transit watches them. And like I said, Metro Transit's probably one of few entities that have been supportive. They didn't close down the path. That's what we asked for. But by asking big, by going to them and saying, close this footpath because this is bringing all of these issues into our community, we were able to compromise and get a couple other big wins for our area. So this past summer, our house got compliments of Metro Transit, some private security that would walk down that footpath multiple times a day. And it had good results. They've recently changed the private security to be more roving. So we had one guard that we got to know pretty well, and he was excellent at what he did. And now we're just seeing a lot of different faces. So we'll see if that change affects us or not.
Well, I think they just invested like another $500,000 in hiring more private security, and part of that is because we have this system that we spent billions of dollars on that few people take because of the crime that they witnessed. Do you think that neighbors have been intimidated from taking the train because of what happens on that path? Or
some have. So when we asked to close the path, they did a survey with the neighborhood, and they shared the results with us. There are certain individuals who will take the footpath, they will ride the train, and it doesn't matter whatsoever what that experience is like. It's just what they're going to do. And there's others that came forward in the survey and said, I used to take it, I no longer feel safe. We're going to need to see big changes for me to take it in the future. So I think it depends on the individual. Our direct neighbors near us joined in. We put yard signs up saying that we wanted safety over convenience. And the compromise we reached with private security has increased safety, but that only occurs when the security is working. The minute they clock out and go home, it pretty much goes back to the way it used to be.
So they're not 24/7?
Not yet, no.
Okay. Well, I'm sure probably people know their exact hours, right? Like,
They posted it, yeah.
And you also see it with all the other properties that are in the area. Everybody has private security now, whether you're talking about Walgreens, Cub, Holiday, the apartment buildings in the area. The hours that they have security is varied, but when you're talking about some of the landscaping changes, I think everybody in the area has made some sort of landscaping changes to everything from removing benches, putting in hostile, landscaping features, trimming trees, removing large boulders that people would just sit on, removing dumpsters and the dumpster surrounds, because that's where people would, corner themselves, and it's like, you watch all the efforts that all the different property owners are making, and the sheer volume of dollars and man hours that are being put into trying to address and reduce the problems in the area. And it's amazing, the impact, the cost, and the return on it, because you're looking at more and more locked up product. You're probably, as a business owner, more and more theft. You have concerns about your employees' safety, and that is everybody from, Hennepin County, Metro Transit, Walgreens, Holiday, everybody concerned about the well-being of their employees. And you're trying to fill vacant storefronts. So it's
Yeah, and I wonder, it seems like the city is very divided over kind of what to do about these things, right? Like, I think there's definitely a large contingent of the city that would say, you know, making those changes, putting in hostile architecture, those kind of things is not the answer. The answer is to put more money into drug treatment programs, right? Helping people to find housing. And their criticism is really directed at the mayor. Like, they pick out the mayor as not being active enough on that front, which I find a little bit interesting because they forget about the county. Right, that the county has this huge role in helping with drug treatment programs and housing and all those things. It all kind of falls to why isn't the mayor doing more? So that's like one side of the spectrum, I guess. And then another part of the electorate will be, well, the city council is hostile to the police, right? They're not. They've created an atmosphere that people don't want to join the police, and they've cut the training budget and all these things. But at the same time, they approved, the raises. So, I mean, what is your sense of kind of where your neighborhood thinks like things have broken down? Or is it just the police themselves? Because a lot of them are tired and it's shortage across the country. But, I've often heard like the police are right now, they're not going to respond to things like your warehouse being broken into or a lot of these other smaller, let's call them quality of life crimes, because they're too busy dealing with murders and more things like that. So, do you have any sense of kind of what your neighbors think the breakdown is, or what do you think the breakdown is, and then, what would it take for this new incoming council and mayor to kind of get together to be able to solve it?
It's exactly what you said. Everybody's pointing a finger at everyone else. There's people who think because I filmed it, I'm the cause. There are people who will point the finger in every direction, and no one's working together. I think if you take just the intersection and you look at what happened when we started, Nancy lived on the other end of the light rail platform, and I was on one end. And once we got together and were able to say, hey, you're on the other end, do you have this problem? She goes, oh yeah, plus fees. And then I'd go, well, you won't believe this. This is what's happening on our end. Once you start working as a team, I can say, hey, this just happened on my end. It looks like it's coming your way. And she could go, oh yeah, here it's going over here. Wait, I know the next person. So the next link in the chain. And we try, without the help of some of the city leadership, to build that network just within our intersection.
Yeah, talking to, it's frustrating going to these community safety meetings and just listening to essentially lip service, promising follow-up, which there never is. But I still encourage people to go to them because the best reason for going to these is to network with your neighbors. And share information and sharing your contact information and your personal stories of what you've experienced. Because there's been so many times when it's like, okay, well, this is what's happening behind the house, and I'll be sharing text messages with other people and photos. It's like, hey, this camp just popped up, and you start taking photos of it, and people start reporting it, and that a whole lot of people are being ignored instead of just a couple. And the same thing with
well, one interesting thing I've heard when I've gone to those meetings, and there's been the what do the police call those kind of like special neighborhood district people? They have special kind of police officers that are liaisons with the neighborhoods.
the safety.
Safety something.
Yes,
yeah.
right.
But they had a good point. They were like, well, if you see something or something's happening, posting on Nextdoor is not going to do anything, right? And I do feel like sometimes people rely, and I'm not saying this about your Instagram channel, but just that they rely on the social media to solve these things. And just when you were talking, I was thinking it really does make a big difference to connect physically with the neighbor or other people in the neighborhood as opposed to just, you know,
Sometimes it's so
raging
you
on
can get
Nextdoor.
the grill back to them.
Yeah.
You can.
Or bicycles.
Yeah.
You know, that's, you know, yeah. Lots of stolen things, and I tell, you know, one of the things I post at the in the spring when the weather starts getting nice is, you know, photograph everything that's in your backyard, your patio furniture and what your grill looks like, because you need some sort of proof that when it winds up in a camp and you want to get it back, you need proof that it's yours. Because too often I've said, hey, that belongs to my next door neighbor, and it's like, well, you know, they can't just go and take it back. They need proof that it belongs to them.
So you brought up that camp a couple of times. It's the Sabri camp. It was on Lake and
28th.
What do you think of how that was handled? Right. I mean, there was a lawsuit. Sabri basically said he wasn't doing anything wrong. He was trying to help people. Eventually there's the mass shooting. They had to bulldoze it. A lot of people are very upset with the mayor for taking those actions. Was that the right way to go? I mean, the struggle I have is that it's like absolutely you want these people to get treatment, but others would say these are just open air drug camps, and it's hard to know who's got all the right facts. So I'm just wondering what your experience with that camp is, or what, you know, alternatives you think should have been done if you don't agree with what was done.
Well, the only
and that's a tough question.
I'm just reading between the lines, but knowing the Sabri brothers' history with the city of Minneapolis, I think the only reason Hamoudi even allowed that camp to be there or wanted it to be there was just basically to stick a thumb in Jacob Fry's eye. I mean, seriously, you've got, you know, why has that property been vacant for the last 15 or 20 years that you've owned it? You know, if you really cared and wanted to do something, you would either connect with a nonprofit organization or do something of substance to truly assist people instead of just saying, yeah, I got this asphalt parking lot, go ahead and set up and do whatever you want. I'm not going to provide dumpsters, I'm not going to provide water stations, I'm not going to do anything for you. But yeah, just go here and just be this horrible blight. I mean, I don't know if you had an opportunity to smell that camp, but the old pawn shop that was on the corner, that was the piss wall. And that whole neighborhood just stunk of urine. And that was allowed to happen directly next to a school is absolutely beyond my comprehension. I have absolutely no idea why that was accepted and tolerated. Different organizations and different property owners in the city of Minneapolis have different levels of tolerance for camps. Like the park board, 0 tolerance. That is why you are not seeing them. And as soon as you report one, they send their staff and their police and their homeless outreach team to do something about it. And the experience in my neighborhood is everybody from the employees, you know, the basic, you know, grounds workers, all the way up to the police department and everybody in between is not accepting of camps happening on their property anymore. And so that is one reason why you are not seeing them. And as soon as if a camp pops up for a couple days and it's gone, they're there cleaning it up, at least in this part of the city.
But I think and you kind of mentioned this at one point, that like when you do that or you put up the fencing, those people are still there, right? They're just not where, you know, they were before. And so you're seeing they'll go into the neighborhood.
Every time we make a change, because I was saying Metro Transit gives us something little, so trim trees, put up a fence, change the lighting, add the security. It doesn't fix the problem from a sense of, are people receiving treatment, services, housing, whatever, their needs, are their needs being met? It just pushes that out of my front yard, which I guess as just a resident, I have to take that as success for my family, my children, but it's costing a ton of money, right? And not overall making much change. So just on that footpath, they have put in hundreds of thousands of dollars of changes, trimming trees, increased all the lighting, the fencing at 6 feet tall, it goes on both sides of the sidewalk, adding the porta potties, increasing the security. We had to build a detached garage. So just for us to remain in our home and safe, hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent. But did anybody get sober? Did anybody get their life back? Did it fix anything? And we used to push people when we would go out, because I believe in just going out and talking to somebody. So I'd go out and say, hey, what's going on? I see you're injecting drugs there into your vein with a needle. Just kind of call it out. And that can't happen here. That can't happen in front of my house. I used to say, go back to the train station. Because that's where they were coming from. I can document that with my cameras, and I can say
Except
that.
Burger King.
And now I do the same approach that Metro Transit has. I see that you're injecting drugs into your arm. You can't do that here. And they used to go back to the train station, and now they're going into the neighborhood to Burger King across the street. So it's just pushing it.
You bring up a great point. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, the question is, how do you manage a service-resistant population? Because I physically watched Hennepin County workers sit there in a vehicle with the hatchback open. They're sitting on the back bumper with laptops talking to individuals. And I've seen that multiple times. So when I'm talking to somebody and they say, well, no, nobody's talked to me, or no, I don't know where to go. Damn well you do. Because somebody has connected with you multiple times, whether it's a city employee, a county employee, a parks employee, or one of the nonprofits. And you are still choosing to do this. And that's great. Everybody has rights, and I respect those. But all the secondary and tertiary behaviors that are going along with your drug use, you're impinging on me by doing those things. You're stealing from me, you're harassing my customers, you're pooping in my backyard, you're leaving your trash around, and you're basically just making this a very unpleasant environment. And you're allowed to continue to do that. To the extent of, there were times when I couldn't get through a particular alley because it was being blocked with bikes, and one of which was my stolen bike, and shopping carts and everything else. And while I'm waiting for you to move your stuff, somebody decided to stab my sidewall. At that point, it's like, I am done. I am just done with all of this. I don't want to be harassed anymore. I don't want to look at the ugly anymore. I need to protect my own sanity at this point and just stop looking at it and just get away from it as fast as I can. Because it's...
Is this something that would make you leave Minneapolis, do you think, or what?
I've left the neighborhood, and my next step is to leave Minneapolis. And it's being... Just because it's not affecting everybody doesn't mean it's not having a major impact on some neighborhoods. And looking at the financial just drain on 46 and Hiawatha through the years, all the lost revenue, all the people that are avoiding that intersection that could be a thriving hub, because it's one of the first commercial areas that you hit when you're driving in from the airport. And people don't shop there. People go to St. Paul, people go to Richfield, people are ignoring Lake Street, they're going to St. Paul, and it's like, can you not see the problems here? It is really bad, and it's being caused by a small population of, I'm going to say once again, a service-resistant population that, as long as we continue to use language that includes the word homeless or unhoused, we are misdiagnosing the problem. And unless you start using the proper language and diagnosing it properly and calling it the drug problem that it truly is, you aren't going to be able to come up with an effective treatment for it.
Yeah, and I feel like we're missing out on the whole conversation about like what is an effective treatment, right? Because there's, some evidence that people will point to that, you need safe needle sites and things like that. And others, they've been experimenting this out in California. There's like drug courts and more of a managed care type approach. I mean, one of the things I would love to see is, if you've heard about the Hennepin County Homeschool, which was closed, open that back up. Is it some type of managed treatment facility, right? I mean, but it feels a little bit like there's so many different opinions on what should be done that we end up doing nothing.
Yep.
And that's where, the county needs to be involved, and the city needs to be involved, Metro Transit, but you have like all these different organizations kind of doing their own thing, and they all have their own little different budgets. And it feels like the budget to handle this is bigger than just the city.
Yeah.
But the city, the county, I mean, between the two of them, that's a $5 billion budget. But obviously they spend money on a lot of things that aren't addressing this one specific issue, and maybe they need to reprioritize. I'm not sure. What were you going to say?
I'm going to say that, you have organizations out there that, what they practice is harm reduction.
Right.
They're certainly not going to want to eliminate it, because then they'll be out of a job.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I don't think people are letting drug addiction continue because that's their job.
Where's the line between enabling and, that moves all over the place.
I mean, I think the people involved in harm reduction really do believe that's the best solution. I don't think they're just doing it. I think they would rather find a different job because there was no drug addiction. You know what I mean? I think they truly believe that's the best solution.
Yeah, and I remember having a conversation with somebody who stopped in my shop, and we were talking, and he was a volunteer with an organization, and he said, and I said, how come you're so involved in it? And he said, well, because I have a daughter who has had substance issues for a long time, and he said, I would feel terrible if anything happened to her. And he went on to talk about how, she's been in and out of treatment. He gets her an apartment, and she, she'll lose the apartment. It'll cost him thousands of dollars because the apartment is destroyed, and he keeps going through this cycle. And I'm like, maybe the best thing you can do is maybe not get her another apartment. And
that's where it feels like that we don't have enough tools, right? Some sort of mandated treatment might be needed there. Like that person who's tried everything for their child, and the child continues to, hurt themselves or be a danger to themselves, and
I think we need to hear more voices from people that are in active recovery and what they think. In all the years of all the different people that I've worked with on the street, and I know a lot of them by name. I've given lots of them my cell phone number. They've come into the shop. I help them whenever I can, of course, with boundaries. One is celebrating a number of years of sobriety. And he has a very, very different opinion of what should be done and, what worked for him and what didn't. Everybody's path is different. And everybody's bottom is different, I suppose. But honestly, when you see and when he tells me, he said, yeah, that one summer that I had, 23 emergency room visits, and almost all of them were, by ambulance. I'm like, that's a lot of money. And he goes, yeah, I know. That's one of the things they have you do when you're, in your treatment program is figuring out your cost. One of the things that they had us do was exercise, and as an exercise is figure out what our cost was. Mm-hmm. And I see that constantly. And it's like, when do you say no, you don't get to decide anymore. Because supposedly if you are a danger to your health, to yourself or to others, somebody should be intervening, and we're not doing that.
Well, you know, I mean, one of the things they're proposing too right now is to make all the bars and restaurants carry, was it Narcan?
Narcan?
Yeah, but, you know, that's obviously treating the symptoms, right? And, you know, what I was thinking about when you're talking about all those ambulance visits, yeah, that's a treatment program, right? I mean, if you tried to send someone full-time to a treatment program, it's $100,000, right? And so it's like if a family can't do that privately, then it falls to the state. So then where does that money come from? I mean, that's another issue, right? Because it's not like there's a lot of unspoken for dollars out there. And I don't know if either of you received your property tax bill. I mean, it's a lot, right? And so I think there's a lot of people out there asking right now, well, my costs are going up. Am I going to get better services?
Yep.
You know, what is the city doing to address these problems that are affecting our quality of life here in the city? Are they spending our money wisely? And you know, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but where does the money come from if we feel like, hey, these people need some treatment, how are we going to get it to them? I mean, is it one of the things that was discussed in the Board of Estimate and Taxation was that this idea of a city-based tax, income tax, right? Do you think that has any potential? That's something you would support?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. I actually liked Bernstein's idea, which was if we do it, then it would be multi-county. It wouldn't just be Hennepin County.
Well,
It needs to be.
that really needs to be discussed, because when you consider how many hundreds of different communities there are in the metro area, people are fluid. And, you know, looking at the state of our public schools and the choices that people are making, look at the decisions that people are making where they go to purchase a home. If the city of Minneapolis has priced small families, you know, out of the possibility of raising your children here, we're not going to have kids for schools, and you're going to have kids out in the suburbs where you can buy more house for your dollar, and your schools may be better, and you also don't have to deal with, you know, worrying about somebody masturbating behind your house and seeing your kids see it.
How are the schools in your neighborhood? Do you have kids in the schools? Or?
My children attend a private school.
Okay. And is that, what's kind of the motivator behind that?
It's a faith-based school, so
Okay.
faith would be the main motivator. But with that comes smaller classroom sizes. So my children are in a classroom size of 15 students versus 30 plus students. And having a shyer, my son's on the shy side, he would get lost in a classroom of 30 plus students. And so that's a choice we make. We still obviously pay our property taxes, and we're supporting the public schools. But for our family, what's the right fit for us is a private school.
Yeah. I mean, it's a difficult challenge for the schools because, and this is where the quality of life crimes, like all these things play into it, is then people, and the higher property taxes, people do, especially if they have families, start looking at the suburbs and saying, oh, I'm gonna stop dealing with all these city issues, and I'm not gonna put my kid into crowded class. I'm gonna move out to Egan or somewhere else and put them in school there, and I can buy a bigger house and you know, kind of leave the city behind. And I think it hurts the schools, it hurts business, because then people don't come in to use the businesses, so there's this whole kind of spiral effect that I hope we start to get a handle on soon.
We have a beautiful city, and I love raising my kids in the city. They attend the Parks and Rec summer program and get to go fishing, ride in a canoe, go on weekly field trips. The opportunities in what they have are fantastic. The bike paths, the lakes, everything that we have is great. But you have to take good care of the things you appreciate and the things that enhance your life. And sometimes that comes with difficult decisions about what will be tolerated, what is not beneficial to the overall community. And as my kids get older, when they were younger, I could shield them from it. You know, that individual, as Nancy put it, masturbating in your front yard, I could shield that from them. And now it's more of this is how we survive, right? So we have a little joke. Every morning we open the garage door and I say, okay, who's going to help me with the Nicole check today? Because there's a certain individual that is always lingering outside, but it's teaching my kids, hey, head on a swivel. Take a good look at what's around you, figure out if it's safe, if it's not. And so that garage door goes up on our way to school and they go, nope, Mom, I don't see Nicole today. And it's funny to us, but it is teaching them how to handle the different situations.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly, I don't think, encouraging, right? It's like, well, my kids are also learning, you know, what to do if there's an armed person in their school, you know?
Yep.
I mean, it's like, yeah, they're learning a skill, but I mean, I don't know if that's, you know, the skill I want them to be learning.
It's a necessity for us, sadly.
Well, the city's budget for the next year is about to get decided. I think, you know, the city council and stuff will be putting out their amendments, and then they've got to agree on it with the mayor, which was a big catastrophe last year. Mm-hmm. We'll see what they come up with. I mean, because it doesn't seem like they're finding ways to trim it. They're trying to find ways to pay for expansion. So that's a big sigh. Do you have thoughts on that?
I thought I was thinking about so many different things before this conversation. I encourage people to not just subscribe to their own city council person's newsletter, but subscribe to some of the other ones, because you'll get a better sense of, well, what other council people feel is important, and, you know, a variety of topics that you may not get otherwise, because you're probably not going to get them all from just your one council person. Mm-hmm. I just remember, you know, popping open one of Mike Rainville's emails and newsletters, and it was real thoughtful, and it led with, I think, the city assessor's report, and all the red flags that it was throwing up, and how serious this is. It's like, we need to really talk about this. And then he went into like taxes 101, and, you know, basically giving people we need to do these things because we need this money for these programs. And if we don't have that money, mm-hmm. we're gonna have to cut programs. You know, it's like, that's a lot of the stuff that some of our council people wanna do is extra. But, you know, if you don't have a pan of brownies, you don't have anything to put frosting on. And
that's a new one for me. I haven't heard that one.
So, you know, I'm afraid you're going to wind up looking at an empty pan with nothing in it, because we're not thinking really seriously about that. And
yeah, I mean, the issues of the budget and spending are kind of boring to people, right? I think, but you know, obviously, starting a new program is like exciting, but there's plenty of programs that the city's doing that I'm a little mystified by. So, well, thank you guys both for coming in here and sharing your experience. I mean, part of the reason I was curious to hear it is I do go to that area, 46th and Hiawatha. There's a dog food store over there I go to, and every single time I go there, I'm like, is my car going to get broken into while I'm in the store? And there's always something really strange happening in the parking lot, like someone's going through a suitcase of clothes, or, you know, just there's multiple people kind of huddled around. I mean, it's, yeah, and the interesting contrast with it is that there's these new, really nice apartment buildings there, which I have no idea how much it is to rent there, but, you know, once you go behind them and you get into the parking lots and alleys back there, it seems to be like a no man's land. And so I'm just curious if that ever changes, right? I mean, it seems like, and feel free to disagree with me, that there has to be some more alignment between the county, the city, Metro Transit, to say, you know, here's our program, right? Whether it's harm reduction or, you know, some sort of mandated treatment programs, whatever it is, a combination thereof, figuring out how are we gonna fund this, let's get on the same page, and let's have like a task force that handles it, because it does seem like it's a real problem, a real disarray that the city's not gonna be able to move forward until it can get alignment on these things.
Yeah, it just keeps getting pushed from one corner to the other to one back alley and then hit it, you know, back across the street, make it somebody else's problem, but it doesn't go away.
And it's really demoralizing. You talk to, you know, I've stopped in all the businesses. I also, you know, email and call the different property owners that, like the property management company that owns the strip mall, the property that is vacant, that has the for lease sign on it, calling all those folks and just saying, hey, can you, I said, first off, you start out the conversation not with a complaint, but just saying, hey, I'm on your side. I live in the neighborhood and I already know all the time and energy you put into addressing these problems, how much time you spend picking up litter and everything else and trying to manage your property. What do you think we can do to try to fix this? And every single one of them just throws up their hand, I don't know. And it's, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're talking to Norm or whether you're talking to one of the management companies. It's like they're fed up. Even though Norm, so one of the guys that owns the apartment buildings in the neighborhood is a Minneapolis, or he's a Metro resident, and Norm's in his 70s, and you'll see him out picking up trash in the mornings. And you'll talk to him for a little while, and you know he's got in altercations with people asking him to get off his property. But he doesn't have any intention of giving up. I mean, he's angry, and he's the one that, you know, takes out the benches, puts in, you know, his hostile architecture, always trying to figure out something else to do because he has a big investment in town. You know, he owns those buildings. It's the same thing when you talk to somebody who else was on your show that owns Mint Properties. One of the
Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're all really, really, really committed to, we care. We care, otherwise we wouldn't be putting the time and energy in. And when an elected official looks you in the eye and says, yeah, thanks for showing up at the meeting, I know you feel like you're not heard, well, I hear you, and then they ignore you, that's the one time they talk to you, it's like,
right.
It's really, really demoralizing, and you wonder, what the hell else am I supposed to do about this?
Well, they're pledging to get along and reset for the new year. So we'll see, I guess, if they make it through this budget amendment process without any vetoes or anything this year. And, you know, hopefully there really is a reset and they can hear people from all the different neighborhoods that are struggling with some of these same issues. So, thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hope
Thank you.
All right. Stop.
Thanks, Terry. I appreciate it.
Well,
I tried to keep my anger